I got a few things that I want to say. I say yes, you say no. Living also disagreeable. You love me now, I love you now. I love the sun, you love the moon. Living also disagreeable.
Good evening and welcome to As It Is Written. I am Tamar Israel, and here with me tonight is Miss Johanna Israel, welcome, and Miss Samara Israel, welcome to the show. Sisters, tonight we're going to deal with Christmas, the myth. Believe it or not, the Bible is a book that few people really understand and know. It's actually safe to say that there's no other book on earth that is so widely read and at the same time so completely misunderstood. Let's take the Christmas story, for instance. Surely, most people think that the birth of Christ is completely accurate according to the Bible. Yet, amazingly, when one looks at what the Bible really says about the birth of Christ, what we see on TV and what we see in terms of the rituals and the activities around this time called Christmas, is totally inaccurate as it relates to the Bible story of the birth of Christ. So our story tonight, or our show tonight, is centered around that whole myth called Christmas. Now we know that for centuries and thousands of years this has been going on. But what we would like for you to do tonight is to take a look at your practices and see what the real reason is for the season. And if it's not the Messiah, Yeshua, the Anointed One, then we hope that you will do the necessary research to change your mind and your actions this time of year. Because truly there is a spirit that surrounds the earth in this time of year. And we all know, or at least we know what it's all about. And what we'd like to share with you tonight is what it truly is all about. So we're going to, without further ado, ladies, let's go ahead and get into our show. And I'd first like to talk a little bit about the whole birth of Christ, because obviously that's where the myths are. So let's start from the birth, and let's kind of walk our audience through. Do we know when Christ was born, first of all?
Well, first of all, Christ was not born, excuse me, during the winter months, particularly in December 25th.
Okay.
That's been proven throughout the scriptures and also throughout history. And just like you spoke, if we could start with a nativity scene, because we have a nativity scene that everyone is very familiar with.
Okay.
When you look at that nativity scene, you look at it and you deal with that, you'll see that you normally have the Messiah, a picture of him with being in a manger, and Mary and Joseph. And you also see that picture also with him with the three wise men.
Correct.
First of all, when you go to the scriptures, you know that didn't say specifically three wise men. And it also states, well, let's go to the scriptures and deal with that a little bit. It also states that that if they weren't there, they weren't there at his birth, at his initial birth. It was the shepherds.
Okay.
Okay. So you can go ahead and pick that up.
Okay, let's go to Luke chapter 2. And tell you what, let's pick it up when the angel Gabriel first came to Mary. Because obviously people think that December 25th is the actual birthday of Christ. Right. And that is, like you said, it's completely false. It's not the birthday of Christ. So where did December 25th come from?
Right.
And many people will say, and even when you look on the actual encyclopedic works, they'll say, well, it's the date that they chose for Christ's birth. And actually, this didn't happen until about, in the late 300s A.D., almost 300 years after his death. So let's see if the scriptures gives any indication as to when he was actually born. I'm going to pick this up in, I'm in Luke.
1, I believe, and 26.
Luke chapter 1, absolutely. And in verse 26, it says, and I think we have another thing that we can put up where you can follow this actual calendar reference. Because, first of all, you have to understand that when the Bible speaks about the calendar, it's talking about the Hebrew calendar, not the calendar that we are using today, which is the Gregorian calendar, which is actually based on the Julian calendar. So the Hebrew calendar is totally different. The Hebrew calendar, the months began in April, in the springtime, which makes complete sense. So in verse 26, Luke chapter 1, verse 26, it says, "And in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God unto a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin espoused to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David, and the virgin's name was Mary." And in verse 31 it says, "And behold, you shall conceive in your womb, and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Yahshua. He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Highest, and Yahweh Elohim shall give unto him the throne of his father David, and he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there shall be no end." And then in verse 36, the angel also tells Mary, it says, "And behold, your cousin Elizabeth, she hath also conceived a son in her old age, and this is the 6th month with her, who was called barren." So in the 6th month of the year, Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant. Now, according to the calendar reference that you just saw, and hopefully we can pick this back up again, if the 1st month is April, the 6th month would be what we call sometime between August, September, because, of course, the new moon begins the month. So between the middle of August, the middle of September, this is when the angel Gabriel came to Mary. And at that time, Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant. In verse 39, it says, "And Mary arose in those days and went into the hill country with haste into a city of Judea, and entered into the house of Zacharias and saluted Elizabeth. And it came to pass that when Elizabeth heard the salutation of Mary, the baby leaped in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Ghost." And I'll skip down to verse 56. It says, "And Mary abode with her about 3 months and returned to her own house." So 3 months later would have been the month called December. Okay, sometime middle of November to middle of December, this was the 3 months that Mary stayed with Elizabeth. So Elizabeth was now 9 months pregnant, and women have always given birth in 9 months. It's not something that just started happening 10 weeks ago or 2 years ago. Women have always given birth in 9 months. So let's see what happens next. So we're down to December, right? Verse 57. "Now Elizabeth's full time came that she should be delivered, and she brought forth a son." And verse 56, it says that Mary abode with her 3 months and returned to her own house. So Elizabeth was fully pregnant. She was 9 months pregnant, and she gave birth to John the Baptist in what we call December today. Now, if you add 6 months to that, because Mary, again, was only 3 months pregnant, you will get down to what we call May, June. Sometime between the middle of May and the middle of June is when Yahshua was born. That was the summer months. And sisters, there's some information about the shepherds. Let's talk about that a little bit to talk about the climate and to verify the fact that he was born in the summer and not a winter month.
Absolutely. And just like you stated, they tell us that he was born in that December month. But in actuality, like you said, it wasn't Messiah at all. It was John who was born in December.
Correct.
As a matter of fact, when you deal with this is written out of one of the publications. It's called The Christmas Story. And I'll just read a little bit out of here. It says that, in fact, the Bible tells us that when Yeshua was born, there were shepherds living out in the fields, keeping watch over the flock by night. The shepherds would not be sleeping in open fields with their flocks during the cold and rainy winter, a month called Chislev. It did and does get cold during the winter in Jerusalem. Excuse me. And Bethlehem is just 5 miles south of Jerusalem, so truly it's going to have the same weather.
Right.
Even in April, the early spring, Yeshua was crucified. Certain servants and officers made fire of coals, for it was cold, and they warmed themselves. And Peter stood with them and warmed himself. And you can pick that up in John 18:18.
Okay.
So truly, it was a cold time. Later on, it was the crucifixion was a cold time of the year. But when you're talking about his actual birth, it was warm, and you know that also because he was in a manger. He was born outside. He was born outdoors in a manger, and people don't think of what a manger actually is. All that is a feeding trough for the animals.
Exactly.
So he was born outside just in a little swaddling clothes and in a manger.
Correct.
So that would not have been able to happen had he been born in the winter months.
Absolutely. Samara, Augustus Caesar, king of the world at that time, made a decree. and made them travel to Bethlehem. Would that have been done in the winter?
Not at all. Not in the months of December when it's cold. I mean, it'd be defeating the purpose of getting everybody there to count and for taxation, but they couldn't get there because it's cold.
Correct.
And then just understanding, too, that by the time the wise men came, like my sister said, it had to be during the summer months because the shepherds were laying out in the field and they couldn't do that in the cold dead of the winter months. But another part of this nativity scene that ties in with the whole Christian myth is that, you know, the wise men came and all the exchanging of gifts and all of that. But let's read what the scriptures really say regarding that. In Matthew, and I'm going to start chapter 2. I'm just picking this up at verse 1. Excuse me. Now when Yeshua was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. Again, it just says wise men. It doesn't allude to how many.
Right.
But skip
every time you see anything, it's 3.
Right, and they try to make it so that they're 3 of different nationalities, as though it's encompassing everybody in the world. But skipping over to verse 10, it says, When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. And when they were come into the house, now no longer in the manger like the nativity scene depicts, they're all in the manger. They saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. Now, why did they do this? Because he was born King of the Jews.
Right.
And being that he's a king, it was fitting for people to bring the king, you know, gifts.
Right.
But that they weren't exchanging like we see with the customs of Christmas right now. People are exchanging gifts. They were bringing him gifts because he was born a king.
Correct.
And, you know, also dealing with that whole scene that we're talking about, here's another graphic we can pick up. If we go to Luke chapter 2, and we go from to verse 8 and then skip down to around 20. It's talking about, just like you were speaking, this was later on when they were in a house, like the scriptures state, but it states here in 8, and there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And you go down a little further, and it deals with the fact that they came to see this babe. And they made haste and found Mary and Joseph and a babe, this is verse 16, lying in a manger. This is not those, this is the shepherds, not those wise men.
Right.
And when they had seen it, they made known abroad the saying which was told of them concerning the child. And the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising Elohim for the things that they had heard and seen, and it was told unto them. So if they're going to give us this picture, then truly it should be a truthful one. It should be a picture of Joseph, Mary, the baby, and the shepherds, not the wise men. So that's a lie from the very beginning.
Exactly. But the lie had to be told because they were the ones that presented gifts, as Samara said, to these kings. So if they wanted everybody to go and spend all this money at Christmas time for all these gifts, you know, I mean, if it was Christ's birthday, then why not give gifts to him? Why are people exchanging gifts among each other? And I guess what we're doing is setting up the fact that what we've already shown you is that Christ was born between May and June, number 1, in the summer, that the wise men were not there at his birth. As a matter of fact, he may have been 2 months to 2 years old, because when they came, they said, where was he born? Where was he born? And Herod, they went, they found the baby in a house, and they left and went back to their own country. Herod decided, okay, when did they say they saw this star? And he went and slew every male child from 2 years old and under, trying to destroy the Messiah. The Messiah had long gone to Egypt because we knew that Satan was going to try to destroy him. So my point is, it was a long time that had elapsed when these wise men came to present these gifts to the son of David. That's another thing we need to talk about. People don't think Christ had a natural father. But who was his natural father? Did Mary know?
She did, and we just read this, but we can pick it up so that we can expound upon it. When the angel first came to her, he made it very clear as to who Yeshua was and who his father was. In the book of Luke chapter 1, and I'm going to start at verse 28. And the angel came in unto her and said, Hail, you who are highly favored, the Adonai is with you. Blessed are you among women. And I'm going to jump down to verse 31. And behold, you shall conceive in your womb and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Yeshua. He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Highest, and Yahweh Elohim shall give unto him the throne of his father David, and he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there shall be no end. Now we can pick this up to back this up, back in the book of Samuel, where Yahweh first made that promise to David, just to confirm that that is actually what happened. And I'm going to pick this up in 2 Samuel chapter 7, and I'm going to start in verse 12. And when your days, and this is Yahweh speaking to David, and when your days be fulfilled, and you shall sleep with your fathers, I will set up your seed after you, which shall proceed out of your bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I shall chasten him with the rod of men, and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before you. And your house and your kingdom shall be established forever before you. Your throne shall be established forever.
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 A son, because you know the myth is, well, he was of the lineage of David, but he was not his son. What do y'all say to that?
Well, first of all, these days we don't see that could be possible.
Right.
But in these days, this isn't even. This is just of man. We have test tube babies,
Right.
which means you can have someone who's been dead some time before take that seed and implant it into a woman, plant it into a tube and into a woman.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I was on CNN.com just today. They had an article dealing with this. The human embryo was created through cloning.
Right.
So they're at the point that they are truly trying to recreate man.
Exactly.
So if man can do it, if man can do this at this late date, truly Yahweh could do anything.
Absolutely.
So
But Yahshua, he said out of his own mouth in the book of Revelations, chapter 22 and verse 16, I, Yahshua, have set my angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of Dawid, the bright and the morning star. So he knew exactly who his father was.
And listen to this. This is in Psalms 132, verse 10. It says, For your servant David's sake, turn not away the face of your anointed. Yahweh has sworn in truth unto David, he will not turn from it. Of the fruit of your body will I set upon your throne.
Praise God.
If your children will keep my covenant and my testimony that I shall teach them, their children shall also sit upon your throne forevermore. Well, we know that that didn't happen because there's no one sitting on the throne of David right now in this earth. So Yahshua was a natural son of David. And then I'd like to go just one more place. Well, actually, I think you're
yeah, I'm ready. If we go into St. Matthew, in addition to him being a direct natural seed of King David, he was his generations were also of that same tribe. Everything was direct through the tribe of Judah.
Right.
And if you pick this up in St. Matthew chapter 1, verse 1, and it states, the book of the generation of Yeshua the Anointed, the son of Dawid, the son of Abraham. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac begat Jacob. Jacob begat Judas. Judas is Jacob. And his brethren. And then it goes on down, who begat whom. And then it says, verse 6, and Jesse begat Dawid, the king. And the king, Dawid the king begat Shlomo. That had been the wife of Uriah. And continue again once more, and you get down to verse 16. And Jacob begat Joseph, the husband of Mary, whom was born Yeshua, who is called the Anointed One. So all the generations from Abraham to Dawid are 14 generations, and from Dawid until the carrying away into Babylon are 14 generations. And from the carrying away into Babylon unto the Anointed One are 14 generations. So truly, he was, in addition to being a direct seed, he was also, throughout his lineage, straight from the Hebrew Israelites of the tribe of Jacob.
Correct. But chapter 1, verse 1 says it all. The book of the generation of Yahshua the Anointed, the son of David. So this isn't a mystery. Yahweh can do anything. He promised David this, and one thing that Yahweh doesn't do is lie. Satan is the father of a lie, and that's why people are celebrating Christmas today, because it's all about lies. So now that we've established his paternalistic, his father, the reason he was king of the Jews, the reason he died king of the Jews, because he was the son of David, he is destined to sit on the throne of David when he returns back to this earth to rule. Now, we've established that he wasn't born on December 25th or nowhere in any winter month, What is Christmas then? What is that all about? What are they really celebrating on December 25th?
Actually, this whole Christmas thing is something that came about long before the Messiah. And any encyclopedia, or really any research that you could do about this, you know, on the internet or in the encyclopedias, dictionaries will tell you all about it. And I'm just going to pick up an article entitled Christmas Before Christ, The Surprising Story.
Okay.
And it says, it may sound odd that any religious celebration with Christ's name attached to it could predate Christianity. Yet the holiday we know as Christmas long predates Yahshua the Anointed. Elements of the celebration can be traced to the ancient Egyptian, Babylon, and Rome. This fact doesn't cast aspersion on Yahshua. It does, however, call into question the understanding and wisdom of those who, over the millennia, have insisted on perpetuating an ancient pagan festival that has devolved through much of the world as Christmas. Members of the early church would have been astonished to think that the customs and practices we associate with Christmas would be incorporated into a celebration of Christ's birth. It says, not until several centuries had passed would Christ's name be attached to this popular Roman holiday. And then it goes on to say, as for how December 25th became the date for Christmas Day, and it says virtually any book on the history of Christmas will explain this. This was all about the worship of Mithra, the sun god, the Saturnalia, and the winter solstice, all about the sun, the birth of the sun, the S-U-N, not the S-O-N. Pagan rituals.
John, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. Excuse me. I'll go to this one. This one's just a controversy over the birthday of Jesus Christ, as they put it.
Okay.
And it's talking about, first of all, the date, December 25th, was commemorated in the ancient world long before Anointed was born as the birth date of Horus in Egypt. On the continent of Africa. Horus, one of the many Ethiopian manifestations of the sun, just like my sister dealt with, was a halo, a sun disk. And at that time they were dealing with, remember, they had always renamed the names of these deities. In the Ethiopian version, it was the son of Isis and Osiris. And because it was all about this manifestation of the sun and dealing with the sun, you always see the halo. And if you look at a lot of the pictures that are found dealing with the nativity scene, you'll always see a halo over the Messiah and over the Madonna. And that's why that's the case. And if you go on a little later, in December 25th was also observed as the birthday of Tammuz, a Babylonian god of love, and the Babylonian god of love. And if we go to the scriptures in Ezekiel 8, you'll pick up that same god, Tammuz. Our people at this point, obviously, were not being righteous about the way that they were living. We were still dealing with the same god Tammuz, whose birthday was December 25th. And I'll pick that up, Ezekiel 8, and this is Yahweh speaking to Ezekiel, verse 14. He says, then he brought me to the door of the gate of Yahweh's house, which was toward the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. And we just spoke about who Tammuz was. He was the Babylonian god of love. And then he said unto me, have you seen this, O son of man? Turn yet thee again, and you shall see greater abominations than these. And he brought me into the inner court of Yahweh's house. So this is the inner court. And behold, at the door of the temple of Yahweh, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of Yahweh and their faces toward the east, and they worship the sun toward the east. So even at this point in the scriptures, it backs up all of this information, all this historical information. At this point, with our evil ways, we were worshiping the sun there.
Correct.
So this, just like my sister stated, it was all about, and has always been about, the worship of the sun.
That's right.
The winter solstice, even the the Christmas cards that are sent around. I have another graphic I'd like for us to deal with. And it's the front of one of the cards.
Okay.
They have actually happy winter solstice cards. So you don't have to just deal with Christmas cards. Now you have happy winter solstice cards. And these people, they call themselves the originals because originally that's where the whole Christmas thing came from. Is that's why they say the happy winter solstice. Because winter solstice is the time in which the day, the sun is the weakest at that point. So, and they're trying to revive it.
Absolutely. It's so incredible to me that these things were done thousands of years before Christ. You even spoke of Babylon. I mean, Tammuz was actually the so-called son of Nimrod, who was at the very beginning who built the Tower of Babel. So these things, right after the flood, Satan infiltrated our people and the people of the world to begin to worship the greatest thing that they saw, which was the sun.
Right.
And they connected the sun to this life-giving force, because obviously without sun, your crops wouldn't grow. So everything revolved around the sun. And to the Europeans, which is the coldest and darkest climate, obviously, continent, in December, it's very cold, it's very dark, and they really did a lot of things to invoke the sun to come back. And as you stated, the winter solstice was one of these festivals. Another one was called the Yule Festival, which is where you get the Yule log. They take this log and burn it during that time of year. So these people were already doing this, and I'd like to read something to you. And this is regarding, it's called the Xmas Story Part 1. And you can pull up this information from any website, any encyclopedia. This isn't something we're making up. It's not anything that we created at NCCI. This is knowledge. This is history. All you have to do is want to know the truth. And truly, the truth sets you free, because you definitely won't be broke at this time of year anymore if you deal with the truth. But I'd like to share this with you. If I can just find the right one. Bear with me for a minute. Okay, it says, Christmas and Paganism, the Winter Solstice. Why did the Catholic Church choose December 25th for the birth date of Christ? It was chosen in order to compete with the pagan winter solstice festivals. It was not chosen because it is the correct historical date of the birth of Yahshua. No one knows the actual date of Yahshua's birth. The traditional date for the year 1 AD for its birth stands greatly in need of correction. Before the mode of reckoning time by the year of our Lord, or AD, which was introduced by Dionysius, a Roman, time was computed from the founding of the city of Rome, usually AUC. Dionysius made his new era to begin on the first day of January. But it goes on to say that December 25th was sacred not only to the pagan Romans, but to the religion from Persia, Mithraism, whose followers worshipped the sun and celebrated the return to strength on that day. According to the Romans, it was a time to invoke the sun to come back. And it says, December 25th was the birthday of the sun, and a great pagan religious celebration was held throughout that month. And that's why you have this celebration from around the 20th of December, and they call it the 12 days of Christmas, because this doesn't just stop on that day. Right. It's a celebration for the whole winter season, beginning with the winter solstice. So this, according to the Romans, it was called Sol Invicti, or the unconquered day of the sun. And this is actually what you're dealing with on December 25th. And the Christians, because there were so many pagan worshipers, they couldn't get these people to change over to Christianity. So they said, okay, guess what? Now you can say that Jesus was born on that day. You can continue your celebrations. And that's exactly what they did. All the pagan celebrations, the gift giving, cutting down of the tree, all this stuff continued on that day. Right. I think we have a caller. Caller, thanks for holding. State your name and your question or comment.
Yes, my name is Khalid. Last week, the sister in the blue, she was saying Yeshua was the only begotten Son of God. Well, who are these sons of God who came before him in Isaiah 4th chapter? 4th chapter.
Well, we know the angels are the sons of Yah. What verse in the 4th chapter of Isaiah, brother? Do you have a verse? Is he still there? Okay. Jonna, did you want to take that?
I guess I'll read the whole thing, because I don't know which one he's talking about. He says Isaiah chapter 4, and it states in verse 1, And in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, We will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away thy reproach. In that day shall the branch of Yahweh be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Israel. And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion, and he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy, even every one that is written among the living in Jerusalem. when Yahweh shall have washed away the filth of all the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning. And Yahweh will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion, and upon her assemblies, a cloud of smoke by day, and the shining of flaming fire by night. For upon all the glory shall be a defense. And there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime, from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and for a covert from storm and rain. Evidently, I guess the brother has the wrong particular scripture, because I don't read anything there about the sons of Yah.
Right. And we know that the angels were called sons of Yahweh.
Correct.
As far as, all men are called son of man. I mean, obviously Yahweh created man, but he only begot one, who is Yahshua, to become a God.
Right.
And so if you can call back if you have another piece of scripture you want to share with us. And we have another caller. Caller, thank you for holding. State your name and your question or comment. Do we have that caller? Okay, I guess we lost that caller. But let's get back into this Christmas thing.
You just a few moments ago, you were speaking about the Yuletide that is very popular with the Christmas legend and so forth. And I wanted to pick that up in the scriptures.
Okay.
If we go to Isaiah 44, and if we pick it up at around 13, and I'll just skip around, but in 13 it says, "The carpenter stretcheth out his rule," as in ruler, and marketh out with a line. He fitteth it with planes, and he's hewn down cedars, and taketh the cypress and the oak, which he transgresseth for himself. And among the trees of the forest he planteth an ash, and the rain does nourish it. Then shall it be for a man to burn, and he shall take thereof and warm himself with it. He kindleth and bake the bread. Yea, he maketh a god, and worship it, and he make a graven image, and fall down thereto. He burneth part of it in fire, with the part thereof he eateth the flesh. He roasteth roast, and is satisfied. Yea, he warmeth himself, and say, Aha, I am warm, I have seen the fire. And the residue thereof he maketh a god, even his graven image. He falleth down unto it, and worshipeth, and prayeth unto it, and says, Deliver me, for you are my God. And basically, I read this in the deal that the whole log issue. A man they take the cedar that they use, the main part of it they use, and deck it with gold. And we know Jeremiah 10 deals with the whole deal of decking that tree, that everlasting, evergreen tree.
And let's read that, because people do not believe that this whole thing is called a Christmas tree. It's no such thing.
Right. And
they've been worshiping trees forever.
We actually have I think if we can pick up the graphic too, I don't know if they picked it up.
Yeah,
okay.
Got it now.
Okay. If we read Jeremiah 10 and verses 2 through 4. Thus saith Yahweh, Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of a workman with an axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and hammers, that it move not. And truly, even today, that same terminology is being dealt with. We're decking the tree with silver and gold, and that's exactly what's still done today.
Absolutely.
So it's not far-fetched for a person to even be able to read this and see that's the case.
It's a Christmas tree.
Yes, a Christmas tree.
And where did this whole thing about this tree originate? I mean, obviously there was no such thing as a Christmas tree at the time of birth of Christ. Tell us a little bit about the origination of this thing called a Christmas tree. Hold your point. Go ahead and look for that. We're going to take this caller. Caller, thank you so much for holding. State your name and your question or comment.
Hello?
Yes.
My name is Muhammad.
Okay.
And I have a comment about, I think you sisters were talking about the genealogy of Jesus, right?
Yes.
And I think y'all made a point of saying that he came from the tribe of Judah.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's right.
Correct.
But from what I understand, wasn't David of the tribe of Benjamin?
No.
He wasn't.
No,
He was he was a Judite, definitely.
He was a Judite?
Correct.
So when he was being coronated by Samuel,
Right.
being anointed, right? His father was Jesse, right?
His father was Jesse. I think you're talking about Saul. Saul was a Benjamite, the
So was
first king
David.
of Israel.
So was David.
No.
Okay, but that's not important. Well, let's talk about the physical genealogy of Jesus, right? Both Mary and her husband were descendants of David, right?
Correct.
And now the physical I mean, I think you were saying that the physical father of Jesus was David.
Correct.
But that had to be impossible. You know what I'm saying? Considering the fact that that Mary was like about at least 150 years after the death of David, right?
Well, actually, it was longer than that. And that's why my sister brought up the whole fact that nothing is impossible with Yah.
Of course.
He promised David that a son would reign. The Messiah, it means son of a king.
Exactly.
And he promised David that it would be one of his natural
But if
sons.
Jesus is the son of Mary, I mean...
And the son of David.
Exactly.
That was his father.
And Mary was a daughter of David, descended through David's line.
Correct.
Then he would be physically a son of David.
No.
Not necessarily the direct, spewing of David's loins, but through descent.
Well, that's what you say, but brother, we have the scriptures to back us up. It's not what we think, it's what the scriptures are saying. Let me read this to you, and let me see how you kind of turn this one around. Okay, this is in Jeremiah chapter 33. It says...
Well, let's talk about how when the angel approached Mary and told her that she was going to be pregnant, and that she was going to conceive and bear a child.
Right, and he told her that she was going to bear David's son.
So how was that done? I mean, was
The same way it's done today. The seed of David was
Mary?
contained and implanted in her womb. That's how it was done. She had a natural
Never states
birth
that in the
9
Bible.
months later.
It never states that in the Bible.
Of course it doesn't state that, but it does state that David was her father.
To the womb of Mary, right? Maybe.
Let me read this. This is in Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 19. And the word of Yahweh came into Jeremiah, saying, Thus saith Yahweh, if you can break my covenant of the day and my covenant of the night, that there should not be day and night in their season, then may also my covenant be broken with David, my servant, that he should not have a son to reign upon his throne, with the Levites, the priests, my ministers. As the host of heaven cannot be numbered, neither the sand of the sea measured, so will I multiply the seed of David, my servant, and the Levites, my ministers. Verse 25. Thus saith Yahweh, if my covenant be not with day and night, and if I have not appointed the ordinances of heaven and earth, then will I cast away the seed of Jacob and David, my servant, so that I would not take any of his seed to be rulers over the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for I will cause their captivity to return and have mercy on them. So truly, the son of David is going to reign on this earth for 1,000 years, not his great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson, his
but
son.
a physical son of David, right? Through
Correct.
the line of David.
Through his own seed, my brother, his own loins.
But it never states that in the Bible.
Yeah, it does, and we read it in several chapters. We read it in
Just read
Psalms from his
Second
own
Samuel.
vows.
You read a promise that God had given David.
We read certain scriptures also that showed that it was
And of
from
the
his own
and,
seed.
of the seed could mean any of David's descendants.
Okay, well, we'll agree to disagree, my brother. Thanks so much for your call.
As far as something not being written there, it doesn't also state exactly how a virgin was pregnant and actually gave birth to a child. So if you have a problem with that, then, just like I stated, excuse me, we have proof today that man is doing this whole test tube thing, where a seed from a man who's been long gone and dead is able to be implanted in a woman much further on. So certainly Yahweh has done that in the past. He said he would, so therefore it was done.
And it really doesn't matter whether or not Mary came from the tribe of Judah and whether or not she came from David, because the seed comes from the man. So if she was a virgin and conceived a seed, that seed had to come from a man, and that man was David.
Correct. According to the promise, he had to have a son to reign on his throne forever. That's why this man had to be eternal, because he's going to reign forever. And in Acts chapter 2, I'm going to pick this up in verse 29. This is Peter speaking to the men of Israel regarding David and something that David had spoken in the Psalms. It says, Men and brethren, let me freely speak unto you of the patriarch David, that he is both dead and buried, and his sepulchre is with us unto this day. Therefore, being a prophet, and knowing that Yahweh had sworn with an oath to him, that of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh, he would raise up the Messiah to sit on his throne. Now, it wasn't lineages of David, because if that's the case, Joseph would have been a king too. Why didn't they present gifts to Joseph? He was of the lineage of David. No, he wasn't the son of David. The sons of David were kings in Israel. The Messiah was the last son of David. That's why they presented him kings, because he was of the son of a king. We have another caller. Caller, thank you so much for joining us tonight. State your name, your question or comment.
This is Uriel. I wanted to first give praise to the Almighty and give thanks for the daughters of the New Jerusalem. You guys are really coming with the truth here. The show previous to you all dealt with the issue of Palestine and Israel, and I'm glad you're dealing with the winter solstice and the Christmas issue and whatnot. But I wanted to try to bring it forward to the issues of today, where we're dealing with bin Laden and the situation with Israel and Palestine. And they talked about, in the previous show, they talked about Israel, and they talked about it. Everybody who deals with Israel deals with the real estate Israel. They don't deal with the fact that Jacob had his name changed through his blessing. And I'd like you guys to talk a little bit more about that and try to bring it a little forward to the issues that we're dealing with today in this war on terrorism. And I'll hang up if I can, or if I've given you enough to work on and listen, because you guys are really doing a great job. I love you.
All right. Thank you, brother. There's really not much to say about the whole issue of Palestine today. I mean, Yahweh promised Esau in the book of Obadiah that he would have war from generation to generation, and that he would try to take back his birthright, which we know that birthright was given to Jacob. So part of that birthright was the land of Israel, which he has claimed. Not only him, but the Palestinians, who are actually the two sons of Lot, Abraham's nephew, Moab and Ammon. So all of our kinfolk, and they are our kinfolk, have claim to our land. Why? Because we are over here deaf, dumb, blind, and ignorant as to who we are, according to the curses that were put on our people for disobedience. So none of this is going to be finished until we come back into the land. There won't be peace in Israel until the true Jews go back home. Now, in terms of bin Laden, I mean, everybody understands what's going on with that. America has been secretly waging war throughout the world for the past 200 years of her existence. Covert operations have always gone on. They always will. Regardless of what we see and hear on the news, we're being spoon-fed what they want us to believe. But in terms of the nations being tired of what's happened with the different civil wars, trying to take their natural resources, the major one is oil. We talked about that recently, where America consumes the majority of the world's oil. So it's very important that they have a strategic firm hold in the Middle East. And this is one way to do that. I mean, they're not finished yet. Saddam Hussein, the Iranians, all of them have a problem coming. And the scriptures, in the book of Revelations, it tells you there will be a final war between the Muslims and the Christians. And that's what this is coming up to. But all of this, again, is leading up to the fact that we are out of place. Had we done what we were supposed to do, the world wouldn't be topsy-turvy right now. But because we didn't, we were cast out of our land, put into captivity, and now you have all these people over in Jerusalem with all their synagogues and their Christmas. Bethlehem is full of Christians this time of year with all this hoax of nativity scenes, et cetera, et cetera. So again, Yahweh's land is polluted because of us. That's pretty much it.
And also, in reference to what you just stated, as far as the scriptures state, you spoke about Esau having never having peace.
Right.
Yahweh also, when he dealt with Ishmael, the firstborn son of Abraham, he said that he would be a wild man,
bloody,
a bloody man, fighting with everyone,
right.
Every man's hand against him, and so forth and so on. So it's always been put there amongst the scriptures, telling us exactly what's going to happen.
Absolutely. And what do you expect from Antichrist?
Right.
They don't believe in Christ, yet if you read the Quran, and we don't want to get into this. I know this was a long discussion last week, but when you read the Quran, it's based on the Hebrew Israelite religion, just like Christianity is based on the Hebrew Israelite culture. So let's all get back to our roots and leave these religions alone. The roots are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to them were revealed the mystery of the world. So it's very simple. The Bible contains everything we need to know. We don't need a religion to teach us these things. So hopefully that answered your question. But let's get back into this. You were on the Christmas tree, I believe. Did you finish that?
Oh, gosh, yeah, we were about to deal with the Christmas trees.
I wanted to, oh, okay.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was going to read something that will kind of bring this up to date, mixing the Roman Saturnalia. From an article I think you were reading from, too, the Xmas story, and I'm picking up part 3. It says, the Roman Saturnalia was boisterous, but whatever the behavior of some Romans, others were simply merry. They ate big dinners, visited their friends. The halls of the Romans were decked with boughs of laurel and of green trees, with lighted candles and with lamps, for the hovering spirits of darkness were afraid of light. Bonfires were lit in high places to strengthen the reviving sun in his course. Candles and green wreaths were given as presents. The streets were crowded with noisy processions of men and women carrying lighted tapers, and public places were decked with flowers and shrubs. The practice of giving and receiving presents was almost as common then as it is now at Christmas. Our present-day Christmas spirit is actually the spirit of this old Roman festival. And you had alluded to earlier the fact that all these paganistic ways predate Christianity. So, you know, being that when what we call the new Christianity today, because we know that the beginning, the first Christians actually were keeping the Hebrew culture. Right. What the Christian church tried to do, because the pagans were so popular and just so boisterous with their pagans, they tried to convert them, as you said. And back to that article that I read earlier, it says, failing to make headway in converting the pagan, the religious leaders of the Roman church began compromising by dressing the heathen customs in Christian-looking garb. But rather than converting them to the church beliefs, the church became largely converted to non-Christian customs in its own religious practices. So they just combined these pagan rituals with whatever it is that they were doing.
Absolutely. Same
That's
with
Christmas.
Easter.
And you know, exactly. And you know, it's still the case today. As a matter of fact, I wanted to deal a little bit with this. We were talking about Saturnalia, which is the origins of Christmas, which honored the god Saturn, which is the god of agriculture. And this is what they used to do in Saturnalia. During Saturnalia, no one worked except the cooks and the bakers. And they said even the soldiers wouldn't be able to fight at that time. They said all men shall be equal, slave and free, rich and poor. And if you go back to our recent history, back in slavery times, you know, we didn't have any close ties to Christmas because, you know, we were Hebrews. Even though, you know, we were taken from our culture and everything else, we knew that this was a foreign thing to us. But what they do and what they still do is they make it a home to us. They make it very convenient. They make it something we look forward to. So just like in that time, in the Roman days, everyone, slaves and everyone had the day off. Even our people during slavery had the day off.
Absolutely.
And not only did we have the day off, we also were given some liquor. So we could have a good time. So they caused us, they made us to feast during their time.
Right.
And that's the case today.
Absolutely.
You know, even if we don't deal with Christmas, we don't celebrate that. But you know what? If you're working, then you have that day off.
Absolutely.
You're given that day off. They force you to keep their day. And that's that whole spirit of Christmas that they have going on. And that's why when that day is upon you and somebody calls you, what you doing? You know, I'd rather be, raking the leaves or anything, you know, because otherwise they're going to have you, because I'd rather also order pizza.
That's right.
Because I don't want to have anything to do with some large, elaborate meal, because this is what they have ingrained in us.
Right.
We're accustomed to it, and it makes us celebrate it, even though it's not in our hearts to do such a thing.
Right.
Because it's that entire spirit.
We have a caller online. Caller, thanks for holding. State your name, your question or comment.
Yeah, I called earlier. I gave you the wrong when I said Isaiah. It's Job, the 2nd chapter.
Job, the 2nd chapter?
Right.
The angels.
Okay, yeah, those are the angels. We don't even have to go there.
And Satan.
Yeah,
He
those are
keeps
the
the
angels.
law, but our people don't.
Absolutely. You know, you talked about the sacrificial meals. Well, hopefully the camera can pick this up, because the most popular part of the sacrificial meal for Christmas is swine, the pig. The Europeans, they slew complete boars. I mean, head and all, as you see in this picture. This was the most popular meal during the Yule season, which is December 25th. And it still is today. Everybody runs to honey-baked ham, grab their ham, deal with their chitlins. This is all, though, in sacrifice to this sun god, not to Yahshua, the anointed one, because, first of all, they didn't even celebrate his birthday. Christ himself said, you celebrate my death, You do this in remembrance of me. Here, take, eat. This is my body. This is my blood. He told us to celebrate his death, which was the Passover, but never to celebrate his birth. So again, this is all paganism. And what is it for? So that you could spend big money to sacrifice to your gods that you don't even know you're sacrificing to. So you go in debt every year at this time of year so that you can sacrifice to the sun god.
Right. And you know,
whether you know it or not.
Right. And you know, it's funny because a person will look at this and say, well, I don't really do that. And those people back then, you know, it seems so foreign. But it's the same thing when you look at it today when we have our black Santa Clauses. We make, because of the Santa, that's a god. You know, we turn this and make it pleasing to us. So we take this, just like they take the ISIS and turn it into something else. And they change the name from Jupiter to Jesus and so forth and so on. So we take this white Santa Claus, it's not pleasing. So we make it personal. We make a black Santa Claus.
And do it even better.
Exactly. And the same thing with the mangers and so forth, with the nativity scene. We have our black nativity scene.
Absolutely.
We know the Messiah was black, but that entire scene, we just spoke on the fact that it's untrue. It didn't happen like that. There were no wise men at that time, during that time.
Last but not least, we got to get into this guy called Saint Nick. You know, old Saint Nick, Santa Claus. You know, we try to bring our children up and say, you know, it's not good to lie. Lying is bad. But what do parents do at this time of year?
Lie.
They lie to their children.
All the time.
The biggest lie in the world is this guy coming, being able to go to every single home on one night and drop presents down a chimney, which most of us don't even have.
Exactly.
It's a lie. It was all created for your benefit. You all want to add to that on Santa Claus? We got about 5 minutes.
Real quick. It says, according to World Book Encyclopedia, St. Nicholas served in the Roman Catholic Church as a bishop of Myra in Asia Minor. He was found for generosity and so forth and so on, bringing gifts to children. But just like most of their myths, this one was the secondary myth. The original myth had to do with their actual pagan gods.
Right.
So even this myth was a false myth because it happened. It dealt with their pagan gods previous to that, who were all into the whole gift-giving season, the Saturnalia.
Gifts to the sun god.
Exactly. It was an entire season of that.
We have another caller holding. Caller, thank you for holding. State your name and your question or comment.
Yes, my name is Robert. And my question was with Saint Nick. Was that revert to the Nicolaitans in Revelation? Does your study bring you to that, or is it completely separate?
The Nicolaitans he's talking about in Revelations. That is completely separate. This guy was a saint of myth, was a saint in Turkey. It was way in the 300s or 400s A.D., way after that time that this was written. So the Nicolaitans were actually a group of Europeans, of course, but it had nothing to do with this saint in Turkey that was called Saint Nicholas, or made a saint called Nicholas. So a good question, but no, two different things, totally.
Okay.
And then, of course, we know that 'twas the night before Christmas. This all helped to extend this myth of this man with reindeer that don't fly, with these gifts that he brings to good children and bad children, but then they say he's not a god. Santa Claus got to be a god. If he can do all that in one night, know whether you're good or bad, you know, it's a lie. And the worst thing that can happen to a child is when they find out there really is no Santa Claus. And they go, well, why did you lie to me?
Who was I writing those letters to?
Absolutely.
Who did you mail them to all those years?
You mean Santa didn't bring these gifts? Stop lying to your people. Stop lying to your children, to your spouses. And if you want to give a gift any time of the year. But don't tell them this is the birth of Christ, because it isn't. If you want to deal with this, then be for real. Say I'm a pagan and I worship the sun. And go ahead about all the things that you're currently doing and claiming that it's the birth of Christ, because that's a lie.
Mail a happy winter solstice card.
Happy winter solstice.
A Merry Christmas and may God be with you and all that. I want to pick up a scripture really quick based on what you said. Colossians, this is 2:8. And it's dealing with just that. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after the anointed one. And that Christmas isn't just one more example of just this, the traditions of men and not after the Messiah, because you don't find the Messiah doing any of this or his followers after his death.
Absolutely. And everything you do are sacrifices to this sun god. And one of the things that Paul warned, and I can't remember where the scripture is, but he said The Gentiles, they sacrifice to devils and not to God. I would not that you should have fellowship with devils. So when you're dealing with these things that the Europeans have brought from their mother country and have established alive and well here in America, when you're dealing with these things, you are sacrificing to devils, whether you're knowledgeable of it or not.
That's right.
So any closing comments, sisters? I think we got maybe a minute or two.
I'll just read one piece of scripture,
Okay.
Isaiah 42:8. I am Yahweh, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images. And dealing with all these pagan rituals, that is exactly what you're worshiping, graven images.
Correct, correct.
Yeah. And this is just this is a children's publication that was put out in dealing with some of the pagan holidays.
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and read it. And it says, there are no Easter bunnies that fill your baskets with candy, no talking jack-o'-lanterns to scare you at night, no green leprechauns with a pot of gold, no baby cupids shooting people with arrows, no tooth fairies leaving money for you, no baby New Year's bringing in the new year, and no Santa. And this is just a list of all the things that we deal with for no reason, all the lies that we're told, and we believe and we pass on to our children.
Right. But part back all the curtains, there's a pagan god somewhere that you're dealing with and not the God that created the heaven and the earth. We need to wrap up the show, so I'd like to invite you to the Cultural Center of NCCI. We're located at 3901A Covington Highway in Decatur, Georgia, 30032. Our number is 404-286-5869, and you can reach us on the website at www.thencci.com. There are numerous classes set up during the week. We have a prophecy class on the first day of the week, which you call Sunday. Again, pagan worship day. 10:30, history class at 8 o'clock on the second day of the week, which you call Tuesday. Third day of the week, 8 o'clock. A women's Bible class on Thursday at 8 o'clock. And an early morning Sabbath class at 11 o'clock on the Sabbath. And of course, our worship service starts on the Sabbath day at 1 o'clock. Bring your Bible, your pencil, and pad if you really want to learn the truth and know what's in this Bible. If you're seeking the Most High to save your soul upon the wrath that's coming upon this earth, and we can all see it, we're in the last time. So we need to turn away from all this paganism and begin to serve the true and living God. I'd like to thank you so much for joining us tonight. How many minutes do we have left, guys? We rolling down? All righty. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Most disagreeable. You love me now, I love you now. I love the sun, you love